said, we're going to give each of you a minute to introduce yourself. Obviously, by now everybody knows you, but one more opportunity to, and I think, again, backing up, the value here is that you as candidates at this point have gotten a lot of feedback. So even though we're going to be asking some of the same questions, I would imagine some of those answers are tempered by what you're hearing out there in the community. Not about your core values, certainly, but about what's important to the community. So that said, Ms. Cleveland, I'll give you first opportunity. You have 1 minute to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Lou Cleveland, and as most of you already know, I taught math at Shipley High School and then went to Chipola College, where I was chair of the math department, then became chair of math, science, and nursing, and then math, science, and education. As Chipola became a four-year college, I moved into the teacher ed program, so I was there for the last 10 years over our teacher ed. We have over 31 teachers in Washington County that are now teaching that graduated from our program. And it's been a joy as I've gone around the county to see those teachers in the classrooms and to see the commitment that they have towards the students in Washington County. Travis and I are both novices to political campaigns, and this has been a great learning experience for me.
10 seconds.
Some hard and some great, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Mask.
My name is Travis Mask, and I've lived here all my life. I'm raising my children here now. I have 4 children, 3 of which are still associated with the Washington County District Schools. I've got one that's in the elementary school at Kate Smith, one that's in the middle school at Rolac, and one that's transported by Washington County School Bus to Hope School in Marietta. I've got another that's graduated from the technical school with his LPN, and he's going through college at Gulf Coast to become an RN. And every one of my children are on the honor roll list and very active in the community and the things that are going on here. And I look forward to an opportunity to help promote a healthy educational environment for my children and your children and grandchildren also.
10 seconds.
Thank you, sir. One thing I would admonish, if somebody says, have you lived here all your life, say not yet. We're going to open up up to the floor with questions, and I'll go ahead and start with one. This is kind of a softball. What would be your top 3 objectives when elected to the school board in Washington County? And Lou, we'll start with you on the question.
I think, as one of I've mentioned before, is attendance, and kind of look at attendance. I'm very pleased. I was at the Vernon Elementary School Advisory Committee, and they were looking at giving incentives for attendance because the attendance policy was not working and they still had a lot of attendance issues. I also realize that we're in a new system with the Florida assessment test, and so I would love to work with teachers and the county on how we can look at the data and help our teachers having some in-service activities to help them prepare their curriculum for that. And also, I think we need to educate parents. Parents are afraid of this new math that they call it, and the English language skills that are part of the objectives for each grade. And I think having the parents come in for parent night to give them an opportunity to see how it's taught would allay some of those anxieties.
Thank you, ma'am. Travis.
Well, 3 things that I want to see happen here the most is I'd like to see those kids that are going over to Hope School in Marietta. We got 11 over there from Washington County. I'd like to see them come back to Washington County. I'd like to see that FTE money come back here. I'd like to see the adaptive equipment money come back here. If we can get that established, we've already got the building. We can put them in there. And with that being done, the children from Holmes County could bring theirs here. And we'd get the money from Holmes County also. We'd have another opening for a teacher to come in there and paraprofessionals to be in there with those students. It would also open up more for our therapy people to be able to come in and receive funds for that. I'd like to see a Special Olympics program set up here in Washington County. We don't have one. And I like to see the look on them children's faces. Every child gets an opportunity to get an award. And the third thing is I want to get rid of Common Core, and I want to be aggravating to them guys in Tallahassee to get it going.
Thank you, sir. We'll open the Misty.
I have a question. Since both of you have obviously been out campaigning the areas and things like that, you have your own ideas of what you would like to accomplish. What is one of the main things that you're seeing from the community that the community wants to be accomplished this upcoming season?
Travis, you'll be first on this one.
Okay. The one thing that I've seen is they've just said that they're tired of the regular same old, that they're ready for something different. And you know, I've never been a teacher, I've never been nothing, and you can go to 100 houses, and out of 100 houses, 100 people will say they're going to vote for you. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to. They say what you want them to hear while you're in their yard. But what they've been telling me is that they're tired of the same old, and they don't want the teachers back in there making the same decisions as before, that they want to see somebody new come in there. And that's what I offer on the plate, is I'm somebody new. I'm not the same old thing that's been there the whole time. I've got children in the system. I'm the only one with children in the system. And I want to see changes come to our system. I want a better school system here. Not that we got a terrible one, but I want to improve off what we already got.
Thank you, sir. Luke?
I think some of the things that's been mentioned to me is pulling on the buses, and even the bus drivers with this new, I don't know if you've been on the new buses, but those new high seats, when you're a fifth grader or below, they cannot even see beyond those students. When they look back there, they can't see it. Another thing is parents are concerned about the new changes in the curriculum, and when they bring homework home, they're afraid that they can't help their children with their homework, and they're concerned about how their children are going to do on the new assessment. And I had some mention about the cafeteria food, about making that more amenable to what the students want. And I know they're under so many nutrition guidelines from the federal government, and what we can buy, what we can serve, and but I think there might be a compromise that could be done for the students.
Thank you, ma'am. Question? Dale?
It was already mentioned, but I guess Dr. Cleveland go first. Do you support Common Core, and if so, why?
Let me preface it this way. In my opinion, what we were doing was not working, and the data shows it's not working. Students were not prepared for college, they were not prepared for careers. We are 49th in the international community in math and science. 49th down from there. And so this initiative with what they call Common Core came from trying to have our students in America be world class. Our goal now is to be 10th in the world. And so that's where they went, and I know this is going to be more than a minute, but they went to the whole world and looked at all the teaching methods and the teaching strategies, what they were doing and what we were doing, the successful countries. And so that was the basis of how they started Common Core. One of the things I like about Common Core is less objectives per grade. But we are not totally under Common Core, we're under Florida standards.
Travis, we'll give you a minute, and then we'll come back and give you both another minute, because you never did answer the question, and we'll give you that opportunity. But in all fairness, go ahead, Travis. You got it.
I'm dead set against it. When my child comes home with homework and I can give her the right answer to the problem, and it's still marked wrong because it ain't done in the set that it's made to be set in according to Common Core, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that one test can make my child that's on the A and B honor roll pass or fail. I don't like the fact that it bases teachers on whether they deserve a raise or not. It's not fair to the teachers, not fair to the students. Eventually you're going to have students that don't do good on those tests, that when they go to their next class, the teachers are going to dread seeing those students in that class because they don't do good on the test, and it may affect their raise. I don't know a teacher out there that don't deserve a raise. Every teacher facilitates their classroom out of their pocket. Miss Cleveland can tell you, she's been there. You have to use your own money to be able to do it. And it ain't right. And I don't like Common Core none.
Lou will let you revisit it.
Okay, then we have 2 minutes.
Let's keep it moving. I'd rather give you a minute and let's get through a bunch of questions.
Well, first of all, teacher evaluation was tied into assessment. It was FCAT before it was the Florida standards, that's the Florida standards assessment. So assessment is going to be tied to teacher evaluation, unfortunately, because there will be assessment. The thing about, are we there with Florida standards? No. I see a progress in terms of the Florida standards in that we went from 52 objectives that a teacher had to teach in math per year to 12, so that they could spend time on it. One of the things about what was not working before, and let me speak to math because I know that, is that you'd be shocked to know that over 60% of the students never learn their multiplication tables. They're not learning them. And so they, as they moved out of third grade, they couldn't move on. Florida Standards is saying third grade, you learn multiplication, you do it multiple ways, and that's the problem with parents not being able to help because they're trying to help those that don't have a memorization.
My only reason for saying no to the 2 minutes is that frankly, you've probably got an advantage knowing a little bit more intimately about Common Core. That said, we'll go back and forth. Travis, you've got a minute?
Okay. I basically just said I do not agree with it. I know there's some type and form of assessment we used to do as we came up through school. I had CTBS. It showed where we are on the grade point level. And maybe we need to go back to something like that. I just cannot see it being weight so heavy on whether a child passes or fails. But if they need help, let's get a program together. Let's assess them and get a program together to help them. Get a tutoring program together. Get some of the teachers to help. We got another way of doing it besides the Common Core. We can assess them and bring them up to grade level without having to have such a detrimental test to our children.
Lou, would you like to revisit?
Just a minute, I will talk about English language arts just for a minute. In the last 100 years, the complexity of our textbooks have been going down for students for reading. And while our technical manuals with people working independently from home have been going up. And so the Florida Standards is trying to make a difference in bringing the reading level of students up so that they can read those technical manuals. I'm concerned about those because of the reading complexity that are there, but I also believe that our students are able to world class, be able to compete at least at the 10th, to be 10th in the world, but our students are capable of doing that. I think that we are only in the infancy of how to get there, but I think that we are making a move that I'd like to see happen to really address this problem rather than just letting it go down and us continuing to fall down. And by the way, Florida students are doing very well on this right now.
Travis, you have a minute to rebut. Good.
Don't beat it no more.
Open up the floor to questions. Michelle.
What are your thoughts on the privatization of services in the school system, such as the lunchroom?
And Lou, you'll go first on this one.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry. I don't have enough information to give information about that. I know that there has been a move towards privatization. My personal opinion is usually workers are hurt under privatization because it's a business model where I think the school model is more of like a state model. It's a kinder, gentler model with not profit-based, but it's more based on individuals. So as a rule, I'm against privatization because of that.
Travis.
Well, I've been to the schools and I've ate with my children, and that was the worst meal I had in my life, I think. I'm plain and I'm simple, and I'll get to the point with it. My carrots were brown and rubbery and didn't taste good. The green beans was awful, and whatever that was they called it, the main entree was no better. And I understand that we have to try to save money where we can, and they're feeding these children for like $10 a day. But something's got to be done. My son, if we tell him he has to eat at school, will cry. And he wants to just take peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every single day. We got to do something different in there. And it's good to have that cost reduction, but the quality that comes out of it needs to be a little bit better.
Can I get one follow-up?
Sure.
Just to give you some information about this. When you at Kate Smith, for example, when you go in to put money on your child's lunch account, it costs you money to do that. There's a convenience fee that's charged with that. So if you don't want to send cash with your child, you want to go ahead and pay their account ahead of time, you have to pay a fee associated with that. What's
They charge you to pay.
They charge you to put money on your child's account.
Is that only if you use your card?
I saw the convenience fee on that. I didn't put any money on my child's account because that was not legal.
Any other questions?
So is it currently advertised?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, Chartwell.
Years.
Cindy?
Me? Okay, well, I'll make a statement and then the question. I mean, as a therapist, I go into homes, Washington and Jackson County, and my big population that I serve for speech therapy is that birth to 3, age 3. On Thursdays, I spend all day in Marianna at the Jackson County Early Childhood Education Center, where it's all pre-K, from 2 years old, 3 and 4. In my mind, I would love to see this county have this huge pre-K program where it doesn't hurt our local daycares with their VPK, but I kind of want your opinion on, do you see us having something like that in this county, even maybe utilizing our old Kate Smith building to start a program like that? I think it's much needed, but what do you think?
Travis should go first on this one.
Well, I know they've got a bunch of VBK classes in the new school, and they've been doing it down in Vernon. I think it would be good, and I think I would like to see an exceptional needs come out of this thing, to where they utilize you guys more often to come in, because they need physical therapy, they need occupational therapy and speech therapy, they need all these. And anybody that's never seen that process at work don't realize what happens when my little boy that I have, when he touches an object and it tells him that it's time to eat. He touches this object and that means it's time to eat when it starts vibrating. When you see his face light up from that, yeah, we need a program to allow these kids to have that service given to them.
I think there is a trend, Cindy, now to reach out. You know, we first had mandatory kindergarten, and that was a big step, and then we started Head Start, and then it became VPK for all ages. And I think that, I hate to say that as we see children with more and more needs, special needs, now that there's going to be a real need for that, and to bring the services together in one place. So I would say, yes, the Family Center there has been there probably 13, 14 years, really very well organized. It's under a special funding, but it has been funded year after year after year. And so I think that would be something that we could certainly consider for there. And ours is a little bit different.
10 seconds.
They have a population in town that can get there. Ours is busing in, and that is always a problem.
Thank you, ma'am. Bruce?
Oh, quick comment. I've noticed, and of course being an old stickler and raised with English grammar, even though I don't use it properly, I do know how to use it. But I'm amazed at how much misuse of educated people have of English. You know, national politicians, national commentators, you know, have no concept of basic grammar. Do you feel equally as much? We've talked about math, we talked about the sciences, but I think communication skills, what's your thoughts on that? Either one of you, both of them.
Lou, you go first on this.
Well, I think the schools are doing a good job in terms of teaching grammar. There's not the focus on grammar now that there was. The focus is more on writing than it is on grammar rules. But the idea was that when students wrote, then they would become better in writing and their grammar would increase as well as they did subject and verb. And but you know, as a parent, I can tell you, Colby will say, he done it, she done it. I have never said that in my home. You know, he did it, she did it.
Did you ever slap him when he did it?
Well, I'd say, what did you say? What did you?
I know you.
Hold on, Bruce, corporal punishment's our next question.
And the word ain't, you know, I've never used that word. So I think that you can't, the school is not all to blame for that, but there's such a cultural pressure of that and the language that they hear, and as we get more and more lax in it, our next generation is too.
Thank you, ma'am. Travis?
I've noticed a lot of it too, and I'm guilty of it also. I think my southern dialect comes out a whole lot. And I believe there's a lot of laziness that's stepped in here to where it's a lot easier just to say it without having the proper grammar, and I think that's what's come into this, is just the laziness. And once we get there and we don't feel like we need to have that as an educational goal no more, we just let it take place. And it needs to be addressed better.
I don't know about the laziness part. I don't remember my third grade teacher's name, but I can tell you which hand she held that steel edge ruler that she hit me with every time I said something wrong. That stuck with me. Dell, you asked one already. Let me get Kelly first.
Shifting to vocational education. I personally have a strong feeling that continue to provide students the best opportunity for college. But also, I have a very strong a desire to see that each student who graduates has at least one sellable skill. I've done a lot of research and tried to do a lot. When I was in office, it's complicated. No, it isn't complicated. It's just difficult to get everybody on the same scale. But my basic question is, what is your opinion, and do you see this as an asset to our students because we have the facilities here, or do you feel like it's something to try to push and to accomplish?
Your first look.
I certainly agree with you, and I can tell you that having this facility here changes the environment of your high school. I've been in high schools that have no vocational programs that they can send students to, and you've got students who don't want to be there. They're 6 hours a day. When you have a vocational school like we do, where they go 3 hours for their math, their science, and maybe their history, and they can come half a day to the vocational school, they're happier when they're at the school. They're more focused when they're at the school. The graduation requirements of requiring 4 credits in math, they have changed that. So, they do 4 credits in math, but 2 of them can be vocational courses that they can use to place them. I think that has really put an emphasis to students to say, okay, if you don't want to take Algebra 2,
10 seconds.
Then you can come and take a vocational credit. And so that's been very, very helpful to encourage students. Also, an English requirement can be taken with vocational credit.
Thank you, ma'am. Travis?
I think every child needs to have a life skill. They need to know how to function. Every person that I know, their desire is to own a house, to have a family. And with that being done, I said it the last time I was here, when my daddy left when I was 3, I didn't get to learn how to work on my car, to do any electrical work, carpentry work. So when I got my house, I didn't know how to do that stuff that needed to be done. So therefore, I had to pay somebody to come and do it, or show me how to do it, so that later, so everything I learned, I had to learn on my own. So I think it's a good idea for them to have a life skill that they can back up on later in life. And I think it would be very great. I mean, we got a gift here. You don't have one of these in Holmes County. You don't have one of these just everywhere. And you got 2 programs that's running out of this place that's nowhere else, that they need to be better advertised and let them know what a gift we have right here in this technical college.
As a matter of fact, over 40 degree and certification programs, right, Charlie?
Yes, sir.
Dell, you had a question?
Yeah, and this is somewhat of a follow-up, and I don't mean it to be one-sided or anything, but you know, in honesty, my opinion is, like Travis says, I'm totally against Common Core. But I don't mean to date you, you were my math teacher in high school before you left with your
I
88.
think you just did.
No, you
Yeah, that's my birthday.
That's fine.
But at any rate, I consider you the smartest woman I've ever met in math. I mean, you actually taught me algebra, and I wouldn't have thought that was possible. So I respect your opinion. Why do you think, I go by, my opinion is based on the, the education I had coming up in the 70s, early 80s. We learned the multiplication tables through repetition and memorizing them. We learned spelling and vocabulary from writing these words 10 times a piece till we knew them. We put in the work and effort, we committed to them. Now, that being said, my generation is now 30 years out of school. We are the CEOs, we're the branch managers of places, and some of us are even retiring. The generation before me sent men to the moon. My generation has led the technological, computers and all the things we've done. So all that that's been done with the education that we got, why is it all of a sudden that that's not working? Why do you think, try to explain to me why Common Core has value? You said what we were doing wasn't working. Why is it not working?
Unfortunately, Travis is first on this question.
Well, and he doesn't have to, because I mean, he said, I'm against it, I'm wholeheartedly, so that's fine. If he wants to answer, that's fine, but I was just, you want to let Ms. Cleveland, see if she could explain it to me a little bit.
And I respect that, but our effort here is not to give Ms. Cleveland a platform, but rather to have a debate between the two candidates. So in all fairness, Ms. Cleveland, we will give you that minute though.
Now, the Common Core, or Florida Standards, is only math and English language arts. So the science is still the same, the social studies is still the same, and music skills, all of that is the same. So when we look at, so you say, is it different? Even in the high school, it's not any different, Dale, than when you were there. The Algebra 1 is still the Algebra 1. They have the end of course exam. That's not Common Core. That's not Florida Standards. They have the geometry end of course that students don't have to pass, but they have to take. That's not Common Core either. That's the geometry that you took. It's a watered down geometry that you took in high school. The Algebra 1 is the watered down Algebra 1 that you took. Also, students don't have to pass that end of course algebra exam. They can pass a PERT test for college, which is much easier than the Algebra 1 end of course. So it's only driving the elementary and the curriculum of the elementary to change the way we teach.
Thank you, ma'am. Travis, you have a minute.
The only thing I can say about it is I know my child...
You can talk about anything you like.
My child comes home with 3 hours of homework in a night, and I can give her all the right answers there are, and when she comes home with that big red X on her paperwork, I don't know what to tell her. You have to go back to your teacher and get them to teach you the ways and the forms that they're wanting to teach you in, because I don't know them. So they send her three hours of homework, therefore when she gets back to school to turn it in, she's got nothing to turn in because I can't help her with it. So it's not fair that these children get sent home with stuff that us parents can't help them with. It's just, they fall behind because what we learned ain't good enough for them. And I think it's a detrimental system.
Thank you, sir. In all fairness, this originates at the state level, and locally they don't have a lot of say, especially when we're taking 90% of our money from the state, and we simply jump through the hoops that they
Let me ask just a short question, or a follow-up on this. Within today's instructional environment, should homework be practiced on what the skill that you've already been taught?
Yes.
Okay, are we doing that?
Yes.
Well, why are we having problems in them not knowing how to do it?
Some of the skills that are already being taught, if that's the case, they're coming home with the skills that's already been taught. Like I said, my daughter makes all A's on everything but language arts, and she makes a B. And she says that she don't know how to do that. Now, I'm sure they gave them a brief overview before they sent it to home with them. But I know when I was in school, sometimes that little thing they done on the chalkboard wasn't enough to get me to go home and be able to do it. I needed a little bit more instruction from my teacher.
I will say, if I can.
No, let's focus on what we're here for. Are you done, Travis?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Cleveland?
It's this complicated issue from there. It's a new teaching, Dale, you hit it, it's a new teaching strategy. And so give you an example, like if a student doesn't know that 7 plus 7 is 14, they haven't memorized that, they didn't. So what they do is they teach them to break down, okay, how far is it from 10? And so then they count from 10 on. So parents aren't used to doing that, but they're giving them another strategy when they don't have that math part memorized. So it is for those students. It's not for the students who memorize, who go and they're ready to go. Gives them a different way to think it, but they can use those same old skills that you have and you use. They will use those. But for the ones who don't, it gives them another alternative to solve a problem rather than just following a procedure every time you do it.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, we'd at least hope that whoever we elect is going to reflect our opinions to the state again, probably.
Can I say one more thing on that?
Sure.
Even if, you know, the ultimate goal is supposed to be to get the right answer, and if I get the right answer and it's still marked wrong, I just can't seem to understand why it's still marked wrong if the answer is correct. And I understand, you know, like when I was being trained in CPR, you know, there's steps that you go through to where you don't skip over nothing. But if the answer is correct and you get the right outcome, why do you get it marked wrong? And I guess I want them to understand it.
Welcome to the real world.
Yeah.
We've got one question here that was emailed. What is your stance on corporal punishment? And Louis, you're first on this. The reason for my question, and what glaringly brought it to my attention initially, Brian Revere, principal of Vernon High School, was our speaker one day here at Kiwanis, and he called me and he said, I'm going to be a little late. And I said, okay, what's going on? You got a car wreck or something? He said, no. He said, I got 4 guys out in the hallway. I got to paddle before I leave. And that was my introduction to Washington County. He didn't have a clue that they were still down. I applauded him. I said, man, take your time. We'll wait for you. He said, well, the big thing is that they're 4 football players and they're earning the right to be just that. So what is your stance? And I can't imagine you haven't been asked this question yet, but you're first, Ms. Clinton.
No, I could look at the people in this room and not say that I was for it because I did it to some of them.
And the other half received it, probably.
But I really, I love...
She sent him to my office to be that.
And but I think Washington County has a wonderful policy in the fact that they gives parents a choice. They say, your child is going to be paddled. If you don't want them paddled, then you can come get them. So what I've observed when I was there, the parent came and got them 2 or 3 times, and after that they said, go ahead and paddle. They didn't want to come get them, they didn't want to bring them home. And so I think that we hit the middle of the road. I do believe corporal punishment works, not because it hurts, because it embarrasses.
10 seconds.
And so I'm definitely for it.
Thank you, ma'am. Travis?
I'm right along with her. I'm definitely for it. You know, the Bible says, if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. And I know many, many times that I got my rear end tore up at that school, and I deserved them, and it curbed my behavior. I know many times I got my rear end tore up by my mama. It curbed my behavior, and it made me who I am today. And do I think it's always the right answer to whip a child? No. Sometimes talking's good enough. I can look at my children and they'll start crying sometimes. So, I mean, no, you don't have to have it every time, but sometimes it's got to be done.
Corporal punishment, when we use that term, it doesn't mean every time and all the time.
Right.
Cindy, did you have a question or just a comment?
Oh, well, it was just a statement on the Common Core.
All right, well then hold that for now. Is there a question? Hank?
What's your opinions on the value of guidance counselors and how involved should they be and when should they start getting involved in the students' lives?
Travis, you first.
The guidance counselor should be involved in the student's life as quick as possible. I think that they are a liaison between the school, the parents. They assess a lot. I mean, a lot of your guidance counselors, they'll be the ones that be able to tell whether a child has been abused at home, where they need to have programs set up. I did notice here recently, as some of y'all may know, my daughter broke both of her ankles, and I went through the guidance counselor trying to get a program for her to be home-based study, and that was such a headache and aggravation, and it never went nowhere with them. and I wound up having to go above her to Beth Arnold myself, and it just, they need to have a good understanding of what their job is there, and they need to be a liaison between the children, the parents, and the school.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Cleveland.
Guidance counselors have a very diverse and complicated job. Their main job is to be an advocate for the student and to work with the student and work with the parents as well. However, there's been so much responsibility put on them with the testing program and the data that they have to keep, that it makes it very difficult for them to do that job. In fact, in the last interview that we had, one of the guidance counselors watched it and told me, he said, you were just right when you said that the testing was taking up so much of our time that we didn't have time to work individually with the students. And so that's what I observed in the schools. They do a lot of career education. They go, I hear parents say, you know, my child wasn't given information about colleges and financial aid.
10 seconds.
But I do know they go in the classrooms and do that class-wide because they can't do it one-on-one. And so they're doing a lot with a little time.
Thank you, ma'am. During your campaign, burning up a lot of shoe leather, knocking on a lot of doors, what is one thing that has become apparent about which people are concerned, which may come as a surprise to you, that you didn't realize was of such import to people? What have you heard out there that sort of opened your eyes maybe a little bit? And Ms. Cleveland, you go first.
I don't think I was really surprised by anything that someone asked me. I know, just like what you've asked me the same thing, there's a lot of concern about Florida standards and the new changes, the testing from parents. But I think the thing that I most learned is the diversity and the socioeconomic level of our county. And my heart goes out to some of these children and the environments that they live in. We have a wonderful after-school program. We're actually, for the first time, running buses to checkpoints to get those children so they can stay for after school, which they desperately need to do. But yet parents will not say, I don't have the gas money to go and pick up that child from a checkpoint that's 2 miles away. And probably they don't. And that's been the biggest surprise to me.
Thank you, Travis.
Yeah, I think this is pretty close to the question we started out with. And the biggest thing that really surprised me is they said that they're tired of administrators and stuff being put into positions where they keep making these policies and stuff, and said that they would rather have just a plain old citizen represent them. But like I said, you got 100 people, you go to their door and they'll tell you 100 times that they're going to vote for you and do something with you. But that's what they've said, is that they want to have somebody different in there that can make changes according to what the common people that would be going to the school systems would want to have.
Thank you. Thank you both for being our guests today. We're going to give you each 1 minute to wrap up. We're ending a little bit short. We'll probably have 5 or 7 minutes left. And for those of you who would like to pursue some of those questions with the individual candidate. But again, thank you so much, both of you. I know you're about over it. You still got 7 weeks to go.
55 days.
55 days. But thank you.
54 days, 18 hours, I think.
But we do appreciate it. Travis, you go first. You have 1 minute.
Okay. Well, I do have a viable interest in what's going on here. With my children being there, I'm not looking to run for one term. I'd like to have consecutive terms. I'd like to be here for the long haul. And with me wanting to be here for the long haul, if I'm elected to a 4-year term, 4 years from now, I'm going to be looking to be elected again. If I don't do the job that you think I should do, I'll be looking for a job again. And I want to do what's right for these children. I want to see what's right for my children. Therefore, I want to see what's right for mine. I want to see what's right for each one of your children. So I look to be a long-term school board member. Not for 1 term, not for 2 terms. I would love to do it the rest of my life. My child's in the 1st grade, my youngest child. Hopefully I'll have grandkids coming up through there, and I can be their school board member also. But I look forward to being your school board member. somebody you can call and talk to at any time.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Cleveland, you have a final word.
As a school board member, I kind of know my limitations of what I can do, and I want to make sure, in the conversation and trying to explain the Common Core, our Florida standards, it's not that you're for it or you're against it at this point. It is the norm of what is today. And so what you've got to do is understand what you're dealing with, and then look at how you can implement it in your county in the best way that you can. And then you take that data that you get back from there, and then you go back to the legislator and you say, this isn't working. This is not, the assessment's not working. We're not where we said we were doing. This program, these strategies that we're using are not working. We need to start doing something differently. And so I see as my role as of the school board is to work on policy and to be that advocate for curriculum and for students.
Thank you, and thank you both. Next week we'll be here for Washington County Commissioner District 3 at this point, which is Trey Hawkins, Eddie Brock, and is there someone else in that race?
Ernest Arnold.
Ernest Arnold. Yeah. So be here for that. Missy, do you have any words in closing? Thank you again. We'll see you all here next Tuesday. And please take advantage of being able to speak to the candidates.
Thank y'all for having me.